Having extra back buttons is nothing new. Sony made an accessory for the PS4 earlier this year. Microsoft has had the Elite controller for a while now. Nintendo doesn't really care. They're not trying to give you the competitive edge in any way. This adapter was made by Cybergadget. It's only available in Japan. It gives you 4 additional buttons, 2 regular buttons and 2 back paddles. But it also allows you to record macros, up to 4 different macros on 3 separate profiles. So you can have the added benefit of the extra buttons, effectively turning your Switch controller into an Elite controller, plus you get some of the best macro functionality I have ever seen, if you can figure out how to use it. This video is sponsored by Sail Away Coffee. Crap, I forgot to order stuff. Wait, no I didn't. Sail Away Coffee with flavors like horchata, touch of sweet, sea salt and caramel, and of course, classic black. Cold. Available in box tap or nitro cans, which are infused with nitrogen to give it a creamy texture with no dairy. Sail Away has 220 milligrams of caffeine per serving. That's 3 times more than a regular cup of coffee. Enough to keep me awake at the old editing desk. Oh, cheers, Past Bob. It's now 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm still editing. Check it out at sailawaycoffee.com/Wulff and use the promo code Wulff20 to get a whole 20% off your order. Don't wait until you wish you had stuff stocked up. Head over to the link in the description below and order some of the good stuff now. And thank you, Sail Away, for sponsoring this video and fueling my body. This device is only available in Japan, but I got mine off of PlayAsia.com. It was $40 plus whatever their shipping costs. I'm sure in Japan it's probably a little bit cheaper than that. Clearly, this is an unlicensed product. The box and all of the instructions are in Japanese, which wasn't very helpful in trying to figure all this out. This is the macro button, which you probably could have guessed. It snaps onto the back of the Pro Controller and plugs into the top USB-C port. It requires a wired connection in order to work. Luckily, it comes with a super long USB-C cable, something that I don't take for granted anymore with modern accessories. I mean, I have enough USB-C cables, it's just that I appreciate when a controller comes with a super long one, especially when it has to be wired. The way this thing works is it passes through the controller's own USB-C connection and injects whatever button presses you press. So it kind of acts as a middleman, and that's why it requires a wired connection. Now, I'm not entirely sure, but I can only assume that there's a lot of features here that I'm missing, because again, all the literature is in Japanese. But I think I managed to get all the important stuff. There are 4 buttons on the back labeled M1 through 4. There's also a giant M button in the middle with a little tiny C button underneath. By default, buttons 1 through 4 are mapped as A, B, X, and Y respectively. So if you want this thing to just have paddles for your face buttons, you're all set right out of the box. Now, that's just setting 1. There are 3 custom settings you can map to this. I have not managed to figure out how to get to the other 2 custom settings. So we'll just stick with custom setting 1 for now, which is totally fine. That's all we need, really. I'm totally fine with it. Are you fine with it? There's also a way to remap the buttons on the back to other single button presses. I did this once, and I can't figure out how to do it again. So we'll just move right on to the macros, which is probably the more important part. To make a macro, you hold M and press Y on the face of the controller. The back will start glowing blue. Now you input your macro. When you're done, press the M button again, and then the button you'd like to assign it to. It will record everything you do, including the timings in between the button presses. And it does so with great accuracy. I'm not sure how long it can record up to because, again, Japanese. But I was able to record the whole first level of Super Mario Brothers. I tried recording the first 2 levels and it seemed like it recorded, but things got really weird. The first level recorded just fine. It has much greater accuracy than the Gully Kick controller did, but it was a pixel off here or there. It's not exactly frame perfect. I mean, it is kind of a hard task to match up with the game perfectly every time. I'd still consider this a fantastic job at recording macros, at least the best I've seen. But this could be useful for games that don't have save states or checkpoints, or uploading a hard Mario Maker level since it won't let you use checkpoints when you do that. You might need a little bit of luck on your side though. Like I said before, it's not 100% accurate. I also tried it with smash combos, which it recorded very well too, something the Gully Kick controller struggled with. So if you have a 0 to death combo that works every time, you could just map it to a button. You'd have to record the combo facing each way though if you'd like to actually use it practically, because the macro records the directional input. You can map the right facing macro to the right side and the left facing macro to the left side. If this sounds like cheating, that's because yes, it's cheating. Probably just don't do this. I'm also not even entirely sure how practical this is, because once you press the macro button, you're kind of locked into that macro. So if you whiff it in the middle of a fight, you're left vulnerable for a really long time. This was incredibly frustrating for me when I was making long macros, like trying to figure out how to record an entire Mario level. I'm sure there's a way to cancel out of a macro, but I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to cancel it. Sometimes I just have to unplug the whole thing and plug it back in. Unplugging the device just from the controller isn't enough because all of the information is coming from the controller gear device itself. There is a way to clear the macro though. You hold C until the back glows red, then you press the macro button you'd like to clear. If you hold the big M button and press X instead of Y, you can input a macro that automatically loops until you press it again. This is useful for maybe managing items in a game.
I'm not going to actually do this. I don't want to actually release anything.
Or spinning around in a circle in Pokemon, which is supposed to help with something, I forgot what. Getting your companion to like you or something. It could also help with repetitive actions in Animal Crossing. God help me, this game made me open up Animal Crossing again, and all my residents hate me, and I don't want to look at them. Animal Crossing is a game that could benefit greatly from having macros. I've talked about macros in Animal Crossing before in a greater capacity. I've also talked about this Gully Kick controller, which doesn't do macros very precise. So it's okay for Animal Crossing because it doesn't require very precise macros. So if you're going to compare this to the Gully Kick controller just for something like Animal Crossing, I think the Gully Kick controller is just fine. But this allows you to store up to 4 macros at once with the 4 different buttons. And you can store potentially more with the different profiles if you can figure it out better than I can. So you can store different macros for different scenarios and just leave them on there. If you want to clear out an island, you can have a macro for farming trees and a macro for farming rocks. And you won't have to re-record them. You could just press a different button. So here's something interesting that's happened to me right now. You know, I thought this thing was more accurate than the other macro controllers that I've used, but after attempting to do the same macro over and over again, it just stops taking controller inputs. So something's faulty with this thing. The macros that it plays are still way more accurate, but for whatever reason, it's just harder to input the macro. I'm having weird problems. Looping macros are also great for training in Smash Brothers. You can make this controller the second player and have it endlessly spot dodge to check to see if a combo is true. If there's a particular move you want to get through on a particular character, you can set the macro to just do that over and over again. I think fighting or action games are a great way to show off what devices like this are capable of, but RPGs, or games with repetitive actions, are where this thing really shines. It's not really cheating because you're not playing against anybody, it's just a time saver. So instead of sitting there and rotating the stick over and over again. You can just hit play and go, I don't know, swipe on Tinder or something. Just kidding. These are pictures of my dog. Unfortunately, this thing isn't exactly the most comfortable. It's wired, so you're tethered to your Switch, which might be a deal breaker for some people. All of the stuff is in Japanese, which is a lot to try to figure out on your own. Your Pro controller is heavier now, and the back paddles take a lot of getting used to. They impede on your grip, and they're very sensitive. So I ended up playing a lot of stuff like this in order to avoid accidentally starting up a macro that I couldn't stop. It would have been nice if the bottom two paddles were removable, kind of like an Elite controller, because I don't really need those. I would have been just fine with the top two. If the extra back buttons are the only thing about this that you're interested in, PDP makes controllers with additional back buttons already built in. There's the Afterglow controllers and the face-off controllers. The wired versions also have headphone jacks built into the bottom, which is something Nintendo's own controllers do not have. These PDP controllers just don't let you record your own macros. But they're also not $70 plus an additional $40 for the other doohickey. They're as low as $25. So I feel like if this is for you, you know who you are. Maybe you have a problem that only macros will solve. Maybe you've tried other macro solutions and only this one will cut it. Or maybe you have a Pro controller already and you're just sick and tired of pressing 30 buttons to sell all of your items to Timmy and Tommy. I'm interested to see what you guys can come up with. What can you do with this thing to help your experience in certain games? And maybe you can figure out more stuff about this thing. So what do you guys think about this weird controller gear, I don't know, controller modifier, macro adapter thingy? This is one of those things that really interests me because you could do a lot of really cool stuff with it, but I always just, whenever I show somebody something like this, they go, why? Why do you need that? But like, did you see it played a whole Mario level for me? You know, like, isn't that cool? Shouldn't that, I mean, I don't know about $40 cool and some import tax. Anyway, leave it in the comments below. At me on Twitter. Any and all this other social media garbage. Thank you, Sailaway, for sponsoring this video and getting me more coffee. Of course, we got new videos here all the time. Make sure you're subscribed so you know when they go up. We also got streams over on twitch.tv/WulffDen if you want to see me play any of the stuff that I literally just talked about. And those streams get archived over on youtube.com/WulffDen clips. We edit them together and put them in little bite-sized chunks for you people who don't want to go over to Twitch for some reason. But of course, the most important thing that you can do to help support us is just hit that subscribe button. You don't even gotta turn on notifications. Just I mean, you should, but. And share this video with a friend. A friend who's maybe interested in programming. Maybe they just play games that have a lot of repetitive actions, or maybe they just like weird little gaming accessories like I do. Maybe they'll appreciate this as much as me, okay? Can you give me some credit for figuring out how, it's actually pretty complicated to do the macro thing when all the instructions are, you gotta hold the button, then press Y or X, and they both do different things, and then you have to do the macro, and then you have to press the M button, and then you have to press the button that you want. There's a lot going on, and you should commend me for the work that I do here. Have a good week.